Just what are keywords? Or maybe you've asked, why are keywords so important to my clients, my customers, even Google? Why are they worried about keywords? You may be asking, well, how can I find keywords that are relevant to my particular business? How do I go about that? Maybe you're looking at understanding, why does Google have such a thing with keywords, and how does Google itself view it when I put these keywords in my Google My Business post or listing? And you're also probably thinking, where do I put these keywords? So I've got my Google My Business, but where do I actually put them? Where's the right place? Well, we're going to cover all those questions and more and show you what to do, how to go about it, what tools I use. Now, when it comes to Google My Business and keywords, this is one of the most basic principles that most people don't really fully understand. So we're going to look at some of the myths. At the end, we'll look at some of the do's and don'ts. I'm going to take you through quite a few practical lessons. I'm going to use an example as well that you'll be able to follow regarding a taxi company and see how they can find some keywords. And by the end of this video, not only will you understand what keywords are, but you'll understand exactly why you need them, how to get them, how it helps Google, how it helps your business, and ultimately how people like clients and customers will suddenly find your company because you've put the right keywords in. If you haven't subscribed, then join me, make sure you do subscribe, press the button below that says subscription, click the bell, and then you'll be alerted as to when the next video update comes your way. And that will help you to make sure you don't miss out on any of the changes or any of the updates that come along to help you grow your business with Google My Business. So let's now dive straight in.
To answer the first question, what are keywords? So you may have heard of this expression. It's not always just one word or just a couple of words, but it can often be a phrase or a complex set of phrases now. So whether it's a single word or whether it's a couple of words or a complex phrase, they're all kind of considered under this heading of keywords. And keywords are words that are just used really to find your business or your service. But what it means is not being informed and knowing everything. So you've got to try and get in the mind of your visitor or get in the mind of someone who knows nothing about your service and think, what would they type into Google? What are the keywords or the very words themselves or the phrase that they in real life type into Google to try and find your services? And what you do with the keywords is you try and match the two up. So you're trying to think of the words they're using, and then you're trying to put those words into your listing, into your website, and everything to do with your business, so that when they then find you, they feel they've found the solution to what they were hunting for in the first place. So single words or complex phrases can be under the heading of keywords. Hopefully that just makes a clear definition as to what keywords are. Now, how can you find keywords then? What can you do to find keywords? Well, there are several tools out there. Some you can pay for, some will be free. Sometimes you can just literally go to Google itself and type in a keyword to get some ideas. So let's, for example, imagine you're a taxi service. So we go to Google, and if you just start typing in taxi, you'll see people are putting in taxi service near me, taxi service, depending on where you're located. So you can say I'm located in Bournemouth, so taxi Bournemouth, taxi business, taxi near me. These are real searches. These are known as keywords. There's a keyword, taxi service. So if I start typing in taxi service, it'll give me other keywords. So taxi service to Heathrow, taxi service to London or near me. If I type in taxi service London, we'll then get even more keywords because it's London Airport, London Gatwick, Stansted, Heathrow, City Airport. So as you type in more words, these are real words that real people are typing in. So if you were a taxi service in London, then these would be of interest to you. Let's assume you were a taxi service in Delhi. So what happens there? So you've got Delhi Airport, you can have these journeys here to Agra, Manali, and so on. So this would give you an idea that when you type in your description and when you put your services into Google My Business, these are the types of keywords you need to start thinking about. So that's one of the things you can do. There's others. There's SEMrush. Uber Suggest is another one that's useful because it helps you find not only keywords that are out there that people are searching, but you can actually look at your competitor's website to see what keywords they're using as well. And also answer the public's a really good one. Let's just go there, answer the public, and just show you how that works. So answer the public, and what this does is you can type in any keyword here and it will then tell you what genuine people are actually looking for. So if I put in cab service in Delhi, and then we can see here it'll come up with all sorts of searches, and these are what people are searching: the whys, the hows, the wheres regarding a cab service in Delhi. So what cab service in Delhi is there, or is there a cab service in Delhi airport? But they're asking what cab service is in Delhi airport. The which, sometimes you don't always get the exact one, which we'll look at these in a moment, and we'll come back to this and we'll use it as a way of helping us. So just bear in mind how we got there. Another one you can do is just to go to, if you've already got analytics or you've got Google Search Console set up, so for you and your website and using it through your Google My Business, then hopefully you've already got it in there. So if you do have a Google Search Console, you can pick whichever website it is that you're running, and here, so under the performance, so if we go to overview, you get performance come up. If you click on open report, it then takes you to this area here that shows your traffic, but it also shows you the queries. So this is another thing, this is real searches. So someone's really searched in to Google 951 times my website's come up, and 1 in 3 times someone's clicked on the Only Fools and Horses Appreciation Society and so on, fan club, Only Fools and Horses, Jolly Boys Outing. So these are all relevant. These are relevant search terms, keywords to my particular website, which is to do with a sitcom in England called Only Fools and Horses. So that helps you there to see how the Search Console, Answer the Public, Uber Suggests is another good one as well. And it just shows the real-time data on the keywords and how you rank and how you can improve. And there's a lot more information there that Google provides you with. So how does Google view keywords then? What does it see keywords as? Well, it sees them as, how does it know what your business is about unless you write about it? So it needs to understand what your business is about. And before we go into that, you need to understand how Google views keywords when it comes to Google My Business. So if we go over to Google My Business, and if I take, for instance, my web design company, and the interesting thing is here is Google again gives you insights into how it views what queries it's being found on and how important your branding is as well. And there's all sorts of other things in here that you can look at, but keywords are again one of the things that it shows it's finding you on, how people are finding you in the business and so on. But, and this is the thing that perhaps all of us need to consider, is Google recently has given us a bit more information about how it views things in Google My Business. Now if I go to this Improve Your Local Ranking page, this is written by Google, and I want to just bring up for a moment a real key thing down here, how Google determines local ranking. Now they don't talk about keywords as such, but they allude towards it. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to key your Google My Business into 3 areas: relevance, distance and prominence. Now we're going to take that information and we're going to show you how that will help you define the importance of what keywords you use and how you go about using them. So what are some of the keywords here that could be used to fit in with relevance, distance and prominence? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to answer the question now, why are keywords important to your clients in Google? And we're going to show how relevance, distance and prominence tie up your business listing in Google My Business with Google, and therefore Google then serves it up to your potential clients using relevance, distance and prominence. Imagine we're at a cab service in Delhi. How are we going to use relevance, distance and prominence to choose the right keywords? Well, if I go down to who here, so some of these things will make sense. So you've got to think of, if your business is a cab service in Delhi, do you do sightseeing? If you do, that would be a good keyword. Now that's quite a phrase, cab service in Delhi for sightseeing. Now, if you chose to perhaps put that into a spreadsheet as being one of your keywords, because that's something that you can offer, how many people with Google My Business have used that particular key phrase? They've probably used deli, they've probably used cab service, and they may have even used sightseeing. But how many of them use the words cab service in Delhi for sightseeing? And that's the bit that will get you the clicks, because that's what real people are typing. Let's just pick out a few others. So which is the cheapest cab service in Delhi? Real people are typing that into Google. Or let's take another one. Which cab service is best in Delhi? So that one there, which cab service is best in Delhi? Or a cab service in Delhi Airport. So maybe if you take people from Delhi Airport, and that's where you start when you initialize your cabs in the morning, then you'd be perhaps optimizing for that. Now, what we're going to need to know then is if we've got, say, a list of 10 things to do with cab service in Delhi, if we've got a list of those things, where do we put them in Google My Business, which we're going to look at in a moment. So now we've got these keywords and we've got these real phrases that real people are searching. We need to just think about in terms of relevance, in terms of distance, in terms of prominence. Now remember, we mentioned that earlier. So if we go back to what Google was saying, relevance, distance and prominence. So what would be relevant then when you start looking for those words? Well, if you're a cab service, then you've got to think of, is it relevant to mention that I'm also a taxi service? Or maybe I've got a minibus, or an airport, or car service, or private hire, or a limousine service, autos, chauffeur driven. These are all key words that are relevant to your business. They're relevant to your product or to your service. So you now need to make sure you've got a list of those. And then think about the relevance as well by means of perhaps how people would want that service. So do you notice again, if we go back to here, you notice that some people are wanting the best. So best is another. So as much as you mention the products, the services themselves, like taxis and minibuses, you've then got this other list of words that are commonly used with that product or service. So things like best, cheapest. It could be things like affordable, near me, local. Transport itself is a more vaguer word that might go with it. Find me. So someone might say, find me a cab service. It could be where is the nearest. It could be reliable, 5-star, competitive, or competitive rate. Now these are words that go with the product or service. That's a second type of word that will help bring in the relevance. And then the third bit is more related to distance and kind of helping in that sense. So do you remember it mentioned here distance? So it's more about how far is each potential search result from the location of the person who's searching. So if they were in Delhi and they were searching for the best taxi company, then Google will assume that they're looking for someone near them in Delhi. So where you physically are located, and then the towns and cities and villages that you mention, again as keywords, will let Google know that you want to cover those areas. So the distance that you cover. So for instance, if I was a cab service in Delhi, I might put Delhi, New Delhi, Kashmir Gate, West Delhi. All those are keywords that would relate to the other keywords we mentioned, the services. And again, you can get like Delhi Airport, there's a location that people might be searching for, and so on. So wherever your nearby cities, towns, villages are, then you would use them as well. Or if they're well-known places that people visit as well. So that gives you your distance. We've got your relevance. And the one thing that we can't do anything about when it comes to Google My Business, even though we can perhaps cover distance with geotagging on images, which is another subject that I cover in another video, but what we can't do is the prominence bit. Apart from the fact we can now put these keywords into the right place of Google My Business, which I'll do in a moment, we need to bear in mind that the prominence bit is a little bit more about how Google views you. If you're a well-known business, if your branding is well-known. So if you're a bigger company, you have slight advantage here, because your website might be famous. It might be that you're a famous company. You notice here it says famous museums, landmark hotels, well-known stores and brands. You see, they have a slight advantage. So prominence is one that's hard to get. That takes time, and that does make an impact as well. But we can certainly do quite a lot with relevance and distance when it comes to keywords. So prominence, more reviews is one way to get that. Positive ratings is another way to get that on Google My Business. Links from other articles and directories, and improving the branding strength. All those things will help you when it comes to Google My Business. So we want to think about the words that customers are typing to find your business, and we've pretty much done that now. So that's kind of helped us to get an idea of what words people are hunting for. Again, we get some other ideas here as well, how people are perhaps looking for near, so near Delhi or near the airport. That's another good word to use. And so I think you get the idea that you get a lot of ideas as to real words that people are searching. Okay, so where do we put the words in Google My Business? This is probably the bit now we've been heading for. So it needed all that information really to help us to then get to the point where we can now start talking about where those words go. So most people just say put keywords into your Google My Business listing, but I felt it was required really to go into some detail to help you know exactly why you need those keywords and how to use them. So there are kind of 4 areas now that you can add these keywords in that's going to make a difference to how Google views you. And probably the most important one is your description. So if you go into your information part of your Google My Business, and then if you then go to the description section, and in here you need to then talk about keywords that we've just looked at. So in my case, I'm a web designer, and then I speak about the area. So I mentioned about the service, the area, the service, all those keywords naturally written. So again, if you just typed in all those keywords that we mentioned back here, you'll find that that's called keyword stuffing. So it needs to read naturally. It needs to make some sense to a person visiting as well, because Google can work that out for itself. So the words you put at the beginning here are probably the most important. So I want to be found as a web designer in Bournemouth. So that gets my biggest and most prominent part of my description. And then nearer the end, you can perhaps offer other things as well and other services. But this should be the key part to what you're offering. So hopefully that is the first area you can see the importance of focusing. And that's probably considered one of the most relevant parts that Google looks at. So the second one was looking for ways in which you can add FAQs. And at the moment it seems that this is being cut down, or it's not really available. But when it was available, you could post a question and then you could give the answer. So if someone asks a question about your particular company or your business or your service, you could then answer that question. Now at the moment they seem to be put on hold, and I think COVID has cut down some of the things you can do in Google My Business, but it's still worthy of mentioning. So the way it used to work, this is an older screenshot that I found online, but you used to get up here in the search results questions and answers, and then you could ask a question, and when someone clicked on ask a question, then this box would come up and they could then type in a question, and then you would be told, or using the app, it would designate to you that there's a question to be answered, and then you could answer it. Now, this was an opportunity again to put in natural keywords. So if someone asks a question about your web design company, you can say, well, thank you for approaching my web design company. There's the keyword again. Or you may then perhaps put some other keywords in there. I offer hosting and offer graphic design facilities, logo design, and all the things that are rich to do with the keywords we mentioned previously in this video. And what you can also do, and again, this wasn't breaking the terms as I understood it when it was available, you can ask your own questions. So you can set up your own FAQs where you ask a question. So you might say, for instance, if you are offering a cab service in Delhi to the airport, you might say, do you offer a cab service in Delhi to the airport? And then you could then answer it, yes, I do. You can contact me on this number. In fact, if you go back to some of these questions here, you could literally ask some of these questions that we saw. So do you have a cab service in Delhi for outstation? Do you have a cab service in Delhi for sightseeing? Those could be FAQs that you could use naturally and then answer them as well. So yes, I do offer a cab service in Delhi for sightseeing. And what that does, again, it's just giving Google an understanding and helping your clients to find that you do offer these services. I mean, at the end of the day, Google isn't a mind reader, and nor are your potential clients and customers. So there's nothing wrong in using this type of facility to go back to, as we said, when it comes to the 3 things that Google's looking for: relevance, distance, and prominence. Now, what other areas then could we possibly use in our Google My Business to include them? So we've looked at it can be in the description area, it could be in FAQs. Probably the most easiest way to do it is to create a post. So when you create a post on here, you can do it several ways, and then you could either put an offer, and you could include and again, you'll see one of my videos shows that include those keywords on the photo. Google reads photos now. It's so incredible how much it picks up. So put your branding, your logo, and then, for instance, if it is a Delhi cab service, put Delhi cab service on the photo if it's recommended, if it fits with it. And again, you've got a title, include it in there, and this would run for some time. The advantage of using offers is you can run it longer than the week, because if you just click a what's new, which is like a post, an update, that only runs for a week. So the advantage of offers is you can have your keywords appearing longer than 7 days. But you do need to at least post once a week if you want your keywords to have any possible effect. You can use up to 300 words, and you can obviously then click through to your website, which helps bring in traffic to your website. So you've got several ways. It doesn't matter which type of button you use to get them to come through to a link, but obviously that will link through to maybe a contact form or your website. So there's the third way then. So use the post, use FAQs when they become available again soon, and use a strong description. And the final one is your testimonials. And again, it's so important to get this right, not wrong. So your testimonials can be found. If you go into here, you'll see you can manage your reviews, or you've also got a section here for reviews. So they both go to the same place. And here then you can see what people have said. And the key thing again is here to make sure that when they use a keyword, that you can then reference that keyword too. So if someone says, for example, here about the content that was created, well, there's quite a lot here. It mentions Google My Business as well, and that's really good. So words like experience, web design, Zanet design is the fact that they put a bit of branding in there as well. So it's just a case of answering back with an answer that, so web designer, business, again, want to be found there. Mobile design issues. Some people might be searching for that, because I can provide them with answers to that too. How do you get them though to use keywords in here? Well, you can always, if you're asking them to give you a review, and of course people don't have to give a review, but if you ask them, there's a chance they will if they've enjoyed your service. You could say to them, could you mention about the fact that I'm Zanet Design, or could you mention the fact it was practical advice I gave, or could you mention my honesty, or anything really, or mention website. You could just say to them, if you can mention that in the review in your own words, that'd be great. I mean, they've used Google My Business again here, which obviously I want to be found because I kind of offer those services too. So you can kind of ask the types of things you want them to mention, and they can naturally put that in there if they want to. You can reply again using keywords. All these again are options, ways in which you can get natural keywords in there, and Google then will look at this and understand it, and it will use it to your advantage to give you credibility. It goes back again, as we've put all along here, that it will get you relevance, distance and prominence, which is what Google determines when it comes to local ranking. So hopefully that's been really useful to show you where to put the keywords in Google My Business. There may be other areas as well. You could include them in your alt tags on your images. So the titles of your images as well. Geolocation on your images would help with where it is, distance, which helps it then to be located when Google calculates the distance from the person and the location. So don't keyword stuff. That means putting lots and lots of keywords that have no meaning to a visitor. Don't do that. That doesn't work. Google stops that working. It didn't work in the first place, and that's pretty much spamming, so don't do that. Don't add keywords that aren't relevant. So if you think, oh, it'd be great if I could offer a minibus service, but I haven't got one. If you haven't got a minibus, then don't mention it as a keyword. That doesn't work, because if someone does find you using a search for minibus, they'll be very disappointed when you can't offer it. So don't use keywords that aren't relevant to what you offer. Don't include keywords in business listing titles unless it's a genuine business title. So in my business title, I genuinely am registered as Zanet Design Limited, but I haven't got the word web design in there. So as much as the word design might help me slightly, that is my company name, that's what I'm registered as, and I'm not registered as Zanet Web Design, which would probably get me a little bit more traffic. In time, those types of businesses that use words like web design in their title, they are gradually being weeded out by Google. So they might work at the moment still, but that would be using keywords in the wrong way. I mean, if I put on there Bournemouth web designer Zanet Design Limited, I'd probably get a lot more traffic, but that is not what Google wants. I'm not registered as that, and I don't appear as that on my website as well, which is another thing that Google will look at. People say, why did I get suspended? Often that's the reason why. Now, do include, and these are some do's, do include your most relevant keywords at the beginning of the description. So we saw the importance of that. Do continue to write posts with keywords on a regular basis, at least once a week. Do continue to update your testimonials and your reviews and other citations with your keywords. And do update regularly your posts and your offers as well. So look to that too as being another option to help get the keywords in there. Now, if this has been useful, then please do make sure you subscribe below, because I want to continue to build on this. So this is just the start of how you can be able to build up the keywords and optimize your Google My Business. But of course, it won't just work with these few changes we've covered today. There are quite a few other things you can do as well if you want to get a quicker traction, if you want to grow even quicker than just the standard growth that most people go through. Quite often people, they start off with good intentions, and just after a few weeks they forget to update their posts, or they forget to add more keywords. So there are several levels that people find themselves at. So I'm just going to show you now how you can go the next step forward if that's what you want to do for your business. So if you head over to Google, and if you just type in there Zanet Design YouTube, and that will then bring up some videos for you. Now, if you then click on, say, one of these, and it will take you through to my channel, what you're really looking for is my channel.
Hi there, I'm Zane from Zanet Design.
Just pause that, and if you then go to, just click on that, and that takes you to the home page. And then what you're looking for is these playlists here. Now you'll notice here Google My Business for Beginners, and here's a list of several videos that will get you started. Some real basic things here. How do you add photos? How do you perhaps get things, how do you claim your business even if you haven't done that already? What's the business website that it provides? Then if you know all those things, if you've already got reviews and you're kind of doing the standard things already, then Google My Business for Intermediates just gives you a few extra things as well. How to cope with COVID, how to stop certain errors, how to get a quote button, and so on. Then if you go on to, if you've done those things, you go on to Advanced, and you'll see how to get a 360 free video, how you can find out what categories others are using, how to be ready for voice search, how to make sure that you don't have fake reviews, how to remove them, and so on. And if you've really gone for all those things, then you can move into the experts area, where this is where you can really grow, you can geotag images, you can avoid suspension, you can kind of tiptoe around the edge of what you can and can't do. And those are some really useful videos in there, some top tips and so on. So there's a load of videos here for you to follow. There's a lot more as well than perhaps you can see. I mean, if you go through here, you'll see there's a lot more as well that you can follow. So just make sure that you pick the ones that are going to be relevant to you, and then that will help you grow your video over the coming weeks and months. And of course, if you want to subscribe as well, then it's pretty straightforward. You just click on the subscribe button here, and that will then make sure that you're updated with my next video. Thanks for watching.